Time travel is one of the most interesting plot devices in all of media. Most all humans have undoubtedly pondered about their future, about what comes next, and about returning to the past, perhaps to right the wrongs that they have made or have witnessed. Journeying through time sounds so completely unreal, so magical, and yet it's also plausible in the realm of science. Time travel as a storytelling device is near limitless. Indeed, the same tale can easily contain robots, dinosaurs, swashbuckling pirates, armored knights, and cyborgs from Mars, and no one would even bat an eye. Video games haven't shied away from stories involving time travel either. Some of the greatest games of all time have included moving through time as a core theme, such as Chrono Trigger, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, Braid, and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. One game that frequently gets overlooked, though, is the handheld JRPG Radiant Historia. Developed by Atlus, the game first released on the Nintendo DS in 2010, and then received an expanded remake of sorts on the 3DS in 2018. Radiant Historia is among the best role-playing games to ever use time travel, forcing the player to traverse two distinct timelines in an effort to bring an end to a vicious war that spells doom for the entire planet. Today, we'll be exploring what makes this game so great, and why it deserves to be played by RPG fans everywhere. But before we begin, consider pressing that subscribe button, hitting that like button, and ringing that bell to stay notified on future content. And if you decide by the end of the video that you don't like it, you don't even need a wormhole to warp back and correct your mistake. Radiant Historia takes place on the continent of Vancouver, a landmass that's largely divided between the warring kingdoms of Alistel and Granorg. Players take on the role of Stock, a special agent from the Alistel Kingdom. Stock and fellow soldiers Rainey and Marco are tasked with escorting a spy back from behind enemy lines. Before setting out on his quest, however, Stock's superior officer gifts him a good luck charm, a book titled The White Chronicle. After rendezvousing with the spy, the Granorg army ambushes the party. A battle ensues in which Rainey and Marco are slain, Stock is left with severe injuries, and Alistel is likely to fall to the approaching Granorg force. In his final moments, Stock is whisked away to a plane called Historia. In this heavenly realm, Stock is visited by two small beings named Tio and Lipti, who state that they can save him because he holds the White Chronicle. They reveal that the tome has incredible time-bending properties, and with it, he can return to special points in time and turn the tide of the war. When asked why they would help him, the twins state that the continent of Vancouver is destined to fall, succumbing to a mysterious event which turns all things into grains of sand, and that the war is hastening its arrival. There is but one path in which Vancouver is saved, and only the wielder of the White Chronicle can uncover it. What follows is an adventure in which Stock must navigate two separate timelines, each packed with their own unique stories, branching paths, shocking twists, dramatic tragedies, and heartfelt moments, all in order to bring peace back to the land and prevent the globe from becoming an endless desert. The game's plot is a highlight, involving the kind of political intrigue and mature themes that fans of games such as Final Fantasy Tactics, Dragon Age, and Xenogears will come to appreciate. The cast is relatively strong in Radiant Historia, with some memorable allies and villains throughout. The main character, Stock, is very much like Final Fantasy VII's Cloud, in that he is stoic for the most part, but has moments where he shows his soft side. The aforementioned Rainey and Marco have a sibling-like relationship, with Rainey behaving like an older sister to the much more timid Marco. Stock's best friend, Rosh, is an Alistel military captain. His bravery makes him a remarkable ally to have, while his patriotic devotion to the country has potential to put him at odds in some scenarios. The young girl Ott is a shaman in training for the Satarosh tribe, a mystical species that tries to remain neutral in the war between Granorg and Alastel. Likewise, Gofka is a renowned warrior of the ape-like Gutral race, who too distance themselves from human affairs, yet he has been cast out of the tribe for being sympathetic to humanity's struggles. Lastly, Princess Erica of Granorg leads the resistance against her wicked stepmother, and she claims to have the ability to end the Sand Plague threatening to destroy the world. Due to the time-traveling mechanic, pacing can sometimes be an issue in Radiant Historia. Just as you're making progress in one story, you'll hit a roadblock and need to venture into the other timeline to find what you may need to progress. This also means there's a good deal of overlap in terms of places you'll explore, though usually there are some exclusive enemies and treasures in these reused areas. While the majority of the writing is good, there are a few obstacles that are seemingly solved with Deus Ex Machina, and this can really take you out of the story. It isn't overly blatant, but more than once I thought the writers found an easy way out to resolve some scenarios when the time travel mechanic offers so many other, more creative possibilities. Exploring the world is quite simple and provides a lot of enjoyment as you navigate dungeons, solve puzzles, and search high and low for precious loot. As the story progresses, you'll learn abilities that will open up new areas for you to explore, giving a sort of Metroid element to the game as you retread locations, searching for fresh treasures. There are no random encounters, and instead all enemies are present on the screen. Sometimes, enemies can be dispatched without going into battle by utilizing some of your abilities, such as exploding a barrel near them. Otherwise, hitting them with your sword can briefly stun them, allowing you to run past or engage in battle with the first move. Radiant Historia's combat system is one of its more unique features. Combat is turn-based, with a turn order located on the bottom screen. Players are able to switch their turns with an ally or even an enemy, setting up for combo chains. Higher combos can mean greater damage given, to higher chances to steal items, and other benefits. This is similar to systems in the Octopath Traveler and Bravely Default franchises, though not exact. In the 3DS Perfect Chronology release, a support skill system was also added, where characters not currently in the active party could randomly enter at the beginning or end of a turn and use one of their abilities to either damage a foe or aid the group. Most all abilities can be learned from leveling up. However, some of the more powerful skills must be earned from completing quests or finding them out in the world. The player's party is displayed in a traditional line setup on the right side of the screen, while the enemy group is laid out on a 3x3 grid. Enemies on the front line of the grid can hit harder but have a weaker defense, while it is the opposite for those on the back line. Players can use abilities to move enemies into a desirable position. Foes can even be stacked into one square until the end of the turn, where any actions will affect all baddies on the same space. This can be extremely useful in shifting entire lines of foes into a single unit, then pushing them into a laid trap, or moving them to the back lines where their hard-hitting attacks will be less powerful. While the battles are unique and engaging, their strategic nature does mean that they can carry on a bit longer than some players may like. In boss battles, this strategic focus I think actually elevates their status, but when dealing with trash mobs, it can quickly feel tedious because you're not able to end most conflicts swiftly. This is made even more apparent if you happen to become over-leveled, as I did towards the midway point of the game. Completing all quests and engaging in the new Perfect Chronology content can easily see you becoming incredibly powerful too early, thus making battles even more of a chore than they would be otherwise. As such, I'd advise against optional grinding so as to keep the game engaging throughout. Side quests are a major part of Radiant Historia. While many of them offer helpful items and equipment to aid you in your journey, completing most of them is a requirement for reaching the best ending in the game. It's good news then that nothing is missable in Radiant Historia due to time travel, although the vast majority of these tasks amount to fetch quests or slaying unique fiends. The meaningful stories of most of them help make up for it. The soundtrack for Radiant Historia is excellent, composed by the acclaimed Yoko Shimomura, best known for providing the soundtracks for Kingdom Hearts, Super Mario RPG, and Street Fighter II. Most of the songs have an epic orchestral quality to them, somewhat of a rarity on the DS. The only downside is that there just isn't enough of it. The main soundtrack only consists of 25 songs, which is a rather low number compared to other RPGs. The game's graphics mimic the 16-bit era, although with some 3D objects in the environment, along with 2D character sprites. As charming as the game looks, it can come across a bit dated, even on the DS. What's more is that the 3DS version, which I should remind you came a full 7 years later, didn't touch upon the graphics at all, save for updating some character portraits. Most of these look fine, appearing much cleaner than the originals, but many will find these lack some of the nuance of the first game's designs. I also much prefer the original short-haired Princess Erika compared to her more generic, long-haired remake design. The 3DS release of Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology did provide a good deal of other kinds of updates, however. Most notably is probably the voice cast for the main characters, helping to inject a little more personality into them. A lot of the voice actors are coming from Atlus's own Persona 5 game, which is a big plus for fans of that series. The only distracting thing for me is that only the main cast are fully voiced, thus most conversations can feel very one-sided, as only one or two characters can be heard speaking, while others only make audible grunts and say repetitive phrases. Perfect Chronology also adds some new chapters with the character Nemesia, who is searching for artifacts that are lost across other timelines. To aid her, you'll be jumping into brand new scenarios which feature twists to an otherwise familiar world. These may see stock in the game teaming up with the main game's villains, or facing off against friends, or facing scenarios that seem outlandish in the game's primary timelines. Unfortunately, the novelty of these run out fast, especially considering that they are short, easy excursions that serve to further detract from the main storyline. Their rewards, though, are very useful, and if you want to see the new, perfect ending that has been added to this version, you'll have to complete them all. I will say, though, that this new ending is noticeably worse than the one in the original game, as it softens the emotional final moments of the DS release, and one final, meaningless big bad to face off with that is unmistakably tacked on as an endgame challenge. The original ending is still there, but this satisfying conclusion is soured with the additional final chapter. Lastly, an optional area called the Vault of Time has been included. Here, players can fight monsters to their heart's content, but they cannot use items. Defeating enemies will provide experience points as well as a special currency that can be traded for rare and exclusive items. The one downside is that any untraded currency will be lost should you leave the Vault of Time, thus you must plan accordingly. Radiant Historia sits just below being a top-tier RPG, with an intriguing plot, memorable characters, a unique battle system, and an exceptional soundtrack. Its roughly 50-hour runtime hits the sweet spot for an RPG of this caliber. The only true downsides are some minor story beats feeling rushed or lazily written, the uneven pacing that can occur due to time traveling, and the somewhat unremarkable graphics. Still, Radiant Historia should be experienced by all fans of RPGs, with the Perfect Chronology offering the best experience aside from its regrettable new ending. Since the games have only released on the DS and 3DS consoles, you owe it to yourself to play either of these any way you can.